Peace. I just want to briefly touch on this Morant situation. The first thing that I want to point out in regards to this situation is, as a homeboy, if I have a homeboy that I know tends to make mistakes when it comes to listening to certain music, then I'm not going to pull out my phone and go live while we have this music playing. So if I know my homeboy tends to act a little crazy when I got this DMX on, he starts to pulling out straps and saying a bunch of nonsense, then when it comes time for us to vibe to that DMX, last thing I'm going to do is pull out this phone and go live while we got this DMX blasting and my homeboy is vibing, when I know he tends to get irrational when this music is playing. Especially if the homeboy is in a certain position in life to where he cannot afford to have that type of highlight or spotlight on it. Last thing I'm going to do is pull out that phone. All right, we about to bump this DMX. I know my homeboy tends to act crazy, pull out straps and talk crazy when this DMX is on, so I'm not going to pull this phone out. We don't have to go live and broadcast everything. That's number one. Number two, Morant, personally, it's time for you to start holding yourself accountable and learning from your mistakes. At some point, you have to evolve as a young man, as a young brother. We can no longer look at it and say, oh, he's just 23. He's young and dumb. When I was 23, I made those type of decisions. So what? At some point, you have to learn from those bad decisions, man. He just was suspended months before this incident, not years before. It was months ago. So at what point do you look in the mirror and say, you know what, it's time for me to change up? It's time for me to change the people around me. It's time for me to get a new circle of friends. Or it's time for me to tell my friends, my current friends, to put the phone down. Put the phones down. We don't have to go live for everything. We don't have to broadcast and highlight everything. Keep it silent. Do this type of stuff in silent. Or in secret, I should say. And number three, I don't like to come at folks' parenting skills, but as a father, it's like Morant's father, what are you doing? Like what type of conversations are you having with your son? You're trying to be his partner. You're trying to be his homeboy more than you're trying to be his pops. Because of, man, listen, my pop's not about to let me act like that. He's not about to let that type of nonsense go down under his watch, no matter how old I get. He about to sit me down and talk some sense into me. And I'ma listen. Cause that's OG Pops. So it's like, man, come on. I hate to see the young brother throw his career down the drain, but that's exactly what he's doing. And I really can't even feel sorry for him. You know, at the end of the day, we already know what type of business we dealing with, man. So we got to move wisely. There is no excuse for this. There is no justification for what he's doing. No justification, man. The young brother got to learn. He has to learn. Change up the people around you. Change up yourself. Once you change up yourself, then by default, the people around you going to change up. Some going to remove themselves. Some going to get their stuff together. New people going to come into your life when you focus on yourself and change yourself. And lastly, I always talk about the influence that music tends to have. No, the music didn't make him pull out the gun, but the music influenced him to do that. We all done been in that type of position where we vibe into certain music and we start doing things that we normally wouldn't do while this music is going on. He wouldn't have pulled out that gun if he was listening to some Public Enemy. He wouldn't have pulled out the gun if he was listening to some Nas. He wouldn't have pulled out the gun if he was listening to some Kendrick and J. Cole and them. He wouldn't have pulled out the gun if he was listening to Immortal Technique. He was listening to NBA Youngboy, and the vibe led for him to pull out this gun. So again, man, that's why I'm telling people, be mindful of what you listening to, man, because it can have an influence on your ways and actions. And that's actual facts. Again, I'm not blaming the music, but the music definitely has an influence on your ways and actions. That's just what it is. The people in the music industry have understood this for years. They understand frequencies, they understand vibrations, and they understand the influence of sound. We the ones that like to remain in the dark when it comes to that. But I hope the young brother gets his head on straight, and I hope he changes up his act, man. I hope he gets it together, man. That's all I can hope for at this point, man. Ja Morant, man, please get it together, man. You got the young boys looking up to you, man, for real. Get it together, young brother. Peace.